Chapter 1. Su Jingming. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Earth. July 2, 2081, 13.50. Clouds and rumbling thunder gathered over the most prosperous city in China, Binhai City. A storm was brewing. The weather is so unpredictable in the summer. In a room on the top floor of the Cosmo Center, a young man looked at the dark clouds and lightning through the floor-to-ceiling windows before raindrops began to patter on the glass windows. The young man walked to the center of the room and placed his hands on the ground before slowly and steadily doing an inverted handstand. He first straightened his arms and retracted one hand before completing a single-hand handstand with his right hand. The sound of breathing rang in his ears. Su Jingming felt the muscles in his core tighten and also felt his entire body's weight burdening his right arm. In the first 3 minutes, his arm felt very comfortable, and his arm muscles and bones felt the deep stimulus. But at the 4th minute, his palm muscles started to throb with pain. It became torturous. It worsened in the 5th minute, but Su Jingming was already used to it. After persisting for 5 minutes, he very naturally switched to doing the handstand with his left hand. I wonder if Dad's back has gotten any better today. Su Jingming's thoughts wandered as he held the handstand. He thought of his 60-year-old father that suffered from a chronic back injury. Yesterday, he heard from his mother that his father had aggravated his back injury when moving heavy objects. I'll pay a visit when I'm done with everything that's on my plate, Su Jingming thought. His father had taught him the single-hand handstand when he was young. It wasn't part of the national team's training regiment. Su Jingming didn't enjoy good health in his youth, so his father taught him martial arts to strengthen his body. One of them was the armed inversion. As the effects from long-term practice showed, it became one of the 5 main stances he practiced daily. He practiced all year round and had persevered for 20 years, even when he was sick or injured. He didn't take a break unless there was some special reason. As the saying goes, the practice of martial arts without doing basic training was a waste of time and energy. Just a few days' break was sufficient for the ligaments, bones, and muscles to decline. Su Jingming walked over to the desk and sat down after he finished his inversion training. He drank a few mouthfuls of water and watched the rain outside. My leg starts to hurt once it becomes humid. Su Jingming looked at his right leg and massaged it gently. I haven't stopped physiotherapy for a single day, but my right leg just won't recover. If my right leg wasn't injured, I probably stand a chance of becoming #1 in the world, Su Jingming said softly. Every martial art expert feared injuries the most throughout their career. To Su Jingming, breaking his leg was a nightmare. Beep. 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 Su Jingming looked up and said, "White, answer the video call." Light gathered in front of Su Jingming and condensed into a 2-meter-tall projection, a tall and stout fatty in a bus. He laughed and shouted, "Old Su, we've already set off from the hotel. We'll probably arrive at Cosmos in about 20 minutes. It's been a year since we last met, right? Let's have a good drink tonight. Don't worry, Bear. I've already reserved a barbecue restaurant." Su Jingming smiled at his childhood friend and exhorted. "Drive safely. Chill, man." The stocky fatty continued, "This batch of kids from the provincial team idolize you. They want to take a glimpse of your spearmanship. You have to give them some pointers and let them understand the gap between them and a world-class expert. Young folks these days are getting better and better with each passing generation. I'll count myself lucky if I don't screw up," Su Jingming said with a chuckle. How can you screw up? I would love for that to happen. It'll mean that my provincial team has produced another genius." The fatty laughed. "Alright, I'll talk to you later." "See you later." Su Jingming waved his hand, and the projection in the air disappeared. The Jiangnan provincial team's training spanned 10 days, and the fee was $50,000. In fact, this couldn't even cover the venue fees. However, a combat center being used for the provincial team's training was also a form of advertisement. This attracted more combat enthusiasts to join the center. Professional gladiators need to put food on the table even after they retire. Su Jingming got up, went to shower, and changed his clothes. Although being a professional gladiator sounded impressive, they only earned a few appearance fees at their peak in reality. Very few in the world earned more than 100 million their entire career. Most professional gladiators only made enough for a living. Earning money after retirement became even harder. Although Su Jingming was also a world-class martial arts expert, his best show was getting into the top 8 at the World Martial Arts Tournament. Income of the martial arts world was pyramidal, and very few stood atop the pyramid. First place received a ridiculously high income, but income plummeted from second place onward. Su Jingming waited at the entrance of Cosmos Center with a few staff members. From afar, he saw an electric bus driving over in the rain. When the electric bus came to a halt, the doors opened, and more than 10 people from the Jiangnan provincial team alighted. Bear. Su Jingming saw the big fatty who got off the bus first. It was his good friend, Lu Chongyuan. Old Su. Lu Chongyuan walked over excitedly, hugged Su Jingming, and slapped him on the back. The latter wore a grimace and could only treat it as a massage. Lu Chongyuan was 2.03 meters tall and weighed more than 180 kilograms, he appeared like an upright bear. He was also a professional martial arts expert back in his heyday, holding a shield in one hand and an axe in the other. He ranked 39th in the World Martial Arts Alliance at his peak, thus, he had a comfy job at the Provincial Sports Bureau. This is Coach Su. Lu Chongyuan grinned and said, the Coach Su that you've been longing for. Su Jingming. Spear Demon Su Jingming. We are seeing him in person. The provincial team members were thrilled. Being in the industry, they naturally admired this senior. When he saw these team members, Su Jingming felt as if he were looking at his young self. They were young and full of vigor. They were nothing like him, retiring from competitive martial arts due to injuries. Su Jingming said with a smile, "Ah Chen, bring them over for the selection of weapons." "All right, Brother Su," the young staff member replied. "Bear, let's go to the third floor and wait for them." The two good friends, Su Jingming and Lu Chongyuan, happily went to the third floor. Cosmos Center's armory occupied an area of 500 square meters. There were many kinds of melee weapons such as sabers, spears, swords, rods, shields, axes, hammers, chains, etc. These were all weapons used in martial arts competitions. However, the swords and sabers were blunt, and their surfaces were coated with a cushioning material, which greatly increased their safety. The professional spears had their statistics labeled on the shaft. Length, size, diameter, and weight. There were hundreds of spears, all arranged against the wall. As expected of Cosmos Center, it's one of the best combat halls in Binhai City. It has the entire assortment of weapons. All 11 members of the provincial team used spears, which was why they participated in Su Jingming's training. In terms of spear technique, Su Jingming was recognized as one of the top 10 professional gladiators in history. The professional spears had their data labeled clearly, so the 11 members quickly chose their usual weapons. This is the first time I'm seeing Su Jingming in real life. He looks so ordinary. He doesn't look as intimidating as he does in videos, a tall man said as he tried out his spear. He looks much thinner too, said another young man. He lost weight, said a stocky man with a nod. Before he retired, I watched him compete several times live. According to the Martial Alliance's public information, he was 1.78 meters tall and weighed 93 kilograms. He has lost quite a bit of weight. I reckon he weighs at most 85 kilograms. The members of the provincial team discussed. They knew very well that a height of 1.78 meters and a weight of more than 80 kilograms sounded overweight to ordinary people, but for professional gladiators that had heavy builds and high muscle-to-weight ratios, it appeared slightly underweight. His strength must have decreased with his weight. I wonder how much strength he has left. Some professional gladiators give up training after retiring. Their bodies go out of shape, and they become much weaker. The team members discussed. I still want to see how big a difference there is between a World Martial Arts Tournament candidate and me. Who would have thought that he would be so much lighter? I wonder how much strength he still has left. The stocky man found it regretful. He had been selected to participate in a national-level team training last year, and his goal was also the most prestigious competition in the pugilistic world, the World Martial Arts Tournament. He originally looked forward to meeting Su Jingming, who had entered the World Martial Arts Tournament twice, but he was somewhat disappointed now. How much strength did Su Jingming have left after losing weight? Was he still the domineering spear demon of yesteryear? Even if his strength has dropped, he still has experience. The tall man beside him smiled. He's still more than capable of giving us pointers. Perhaps he won't even engage in actual combat with us, muttered the youth. They had been instructed by many coaches of the older generation, very few of them would engage in actual combat with them. On the third floor of Cosmos Center was a martial arts arena that matched the World Martial Arts Tournament standards. The arena was 20 meters long and 20 meters wide, surrounded by 6-meter tall barbed wire. The members of the provincial team came to the third floor and saw Coach Liu and Su Jingming standing there. Get in position, Su Jingming said. He used to be a member of the Jiangnan provincial team, but he was later selected to join the national team. These 11 team members all held spears in their hands as they stood in line orderly. Perhaps Su Jingming's strength had decreased after he retired, but his past achievements still made these team members admire him. Naturally, they were very obedient. From today onward, I will be your coach. The training will span a total of 10 days. Except for starting in the afternoon today, training will be from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. starting tomorrow. Su Jingming swept his gaze past them. I don't want anyone to be late, nor do I want anyone to leave early. Yes, sir, replied the 11 members in unison. Good. This is our first time meeting, so let's get our hands dirty. Show me how strong you are, Su Jingming said. It'll allow me to tailor the training to your abilities. Get our hands dirty. The team members looked at each other, surprised and delighted. An actual battle in the arena. Su Jingming has the guts to fight in actual combat. The team members couldn't hide their joy. Since Su Jingming dared to do so, it meant that he still retained most of his peak strength after retirement. Chapter 2. Guidance Battle. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Su Jingming could guess what these youngsters were thinking from their faces. He smiled and said, I've read your information. There are 11 people in the Jiangnan provincial team who use spears, and all of you are here. 3 of you are high school students that were specially recruited. You 3 will start first, suit up. In a martial arts competition, one had to wear armor, a helmet, and even a neck guard. In melee combat, even though the weapons were blunt and were coated with cushioning material, the impact delivered remained terrifying. Death was very possible without donning professional equipment. Su Jingming also donned his armor and helmet, and he looked at his team members through his meshed helmet. Everyone, enter the arena. Su Jingming held his spear and walked into the arena through the metal gate. The 11 members and Coach Liu also walked in. Everyone else, stand to the side. Feng, you will go first. Liu Hao, you're up next, Su Jingming said. Only 2 contestants were allowed into the arena in an official match, but this was only a coaching match. With a 20m by 20m arena and Su Jingming not needing much space to offer the provincial team guidance, he permitted the other members entry to the arena for a better view as there was no barbed wire within. Watch carefully. If your spearmanship is half as good as Coach Su's, you'll be able to make it into the World Martial Arts Tournament, said Lu Chongyuan. The other team members also held their breaths and watched carefully. It was very rare to see an expert like Spear Demon Su Jingming in action up close. A young man wearing armor and holding a spear walked up to Su Jingming and stood 10 meters away from him. "Referee system, activate," Su Jingming said. Light descended from above the arena, condensing into a giant face that looked down from above. It said, "Engage." Nowadays, the martial arts tournament used AI referees. AI referee cameras could be slowed down by 1,000-fold and could accurately make judgments. They hadn't made a mistake to this day. "Come on." Su Jingming looked at the young man named Feng Yu. Specially recruited high school students were usually relatively weak. They were only specially recruited because they had great potential. Much effort was put into nurturing them. "Coach, be careful. Many contestants were unable to handle a single strike from me during my competitions." Feng Yu was rather confident. "Say that again when you touch me," Su Jingming teased. Feng Yu confidently strode forward, his speed extremely high and incomparably fierce. In just a few steps, he arrived in front of Su Jingming. His forward momentum turned into a thrust of his spear, causing the air to whistle. Feng Yu practiced forward pierce 500 times a day, and every strike was executed with full strength. He started spear practice at the age of 12, and in 5 years, he could produce afterimages when thrusting out his spear. It could even pierce through thick iron armor. Even if he used a spear in a competition where the spearhead was rounded and had a cushioning layer, the impact still exceeded 400 kilograms of force. Boom! The sound of the spear piercing through the wind could be clearly heard, but Su Jingming only took a step back. The spear tip stopped 20 centimeters away from Su Jingming and didn't touch him at all. "Ha!" Feng Yu was slightly stunned, but he immediately spun his spear and thrust it at Su Jingming repeatedly. Every thrust of the spear posed a threat, but Su Jingming was like a leopard cat. With simple footwork, all the strikes missed. A high school student in the provincial team. Su Jingming recalled his past self and how young he had been back then. Isn't his leg seriously injured and his footwork very weak? Why can't I touch him? It's like I'm short by 20 to 30 centimeters every single time. Feng Yu was unwilling to give up and attacked continuously. His spearmanship was dazzling, but he couldn't touch Su Jingming at all. After a few dozen thrusts, the constantly moving Su Jingming made his first move. He raised the spear in his hand and tapped Feng Yu's relentless spear. The former's spear then turned into a blur and suddenly erupted with terrifying explosive power. Bang! A deep, dull collision sound rang out. It was the sound of a spear shaft colliding with something. The spear in Feng Yu's hand was sent flying. Feng Yu's eyes were wide open, and his hands were trembling. He stared blankly at the spear on the ground. My grip can handle at least 200 kilograms. How could I lose my grip from a single tap? He had held his spear with both hands, yet a single collision with the opponent's spear shaft numbed his hands and sent his spear flying. "You're a bit too flashy. Your footwork is very weak, and your spearmanship is just average," Su Jingming commented. This kind of opponent wasn't even worthy of him wearing full armor, but he couldn't afford to be careless in a martial arts competition. If he was careless, he might regret it for the rest of his life. "I don't know much about spearmanship," Lu Chongyuan laughed and said, "but this kid's footwork is weak. In our eyes, it's like slow motion." Feng Yu looked at Su Jingming in confusion. "Coach, even though my footwork is weak, I'm holding a 2-meter long spear. Why couldn't I touch you? Your arms and spear are only that long, so your maximum attack range is fixed," Su Jingming explained. "Based on your footwork, one can determine the maximum range of your spear. As long as one maintains that distance, you won't be able to touch the other party. These are the basics for professionals. The maximum attack range is fixed. I can't touch you if you maintain that distance." Feng Yu murmured. He had felt it earlier. Su Jingming's movement was simple, but he couldn't touch him despite throwing everything he had. The essence of footwork is firstly, reaction, secondly, the awareness of space, thirdly, balance, Su Jingming said. These three aspects of yours are very rough. It's just like Coach Lu said, your footwork is like slow motion in the eyes of professionals. This kid just joined the provincial team after the college entrance examination, Lu Chongyuan said. He learned plenty of unorthodox techniques, and it's true that he needs to work on his footwork. Feng Yu immediately asked, Coach Su, what are the problems with my spearmanship then? He admitted to having weak footwork, but he was confident in his spearmanship. Strictly speaking, your spearmanship. Only the first thrust where you focused all the force from your forward charge into the spear could be considered to be at the professional level. You are very weak when it comes to interception, strikes, and blocking, Su Jingming said. Fighting with weapons wasn't a game, it was the most dangerous fight, where serious injuries and disabilities happened occasionally. Since he was their coach, he had to explain their problems clearly. The other 10 members felt pressured by Su Jingming but were eager to try. Bam! The second high school student had his spear fly away the moment it came into contact with Su Jingming's spear. Even if he was prepared and tried his best to hold it tightly, it was useless. Bang! 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 Spear after spear was sent flying. All the provincial team members were dumbfounded. Even Huang Feng and Zhang Qi, 2 veterans that had participated in the national training program, were powerless against Su Jingming. Among them, only Zhang Qi made Su Jingming deliver 2 strikes. The first strike knocked the spear out of his hand, but Zhang Qi did his best to hold on to it. He succeeded, but it left an opening for Su Jingming to follow up with a second strike. It landed on Zhang Qi's chest, and the impact caused his armor to light up red. Zhang Qi had lost. As for the other team members, Su Jingming only needed 1 strike, a defensive one at that. Those team members couldn't hold on to their spears at all, their spears were all sent flying. So this is Spear Demon. The World Martial Arts Tournament has been held for almost 30 years. In terms of spearmanship, Su Jingming is recognized as one of the top 10 professional gladiators in history. The gap is far greater than I imagined. Spear Demon Su Jingming's most famous move is Shadowless Thrust, but he doesn't need to use that ultimate move against us. If I can reach half of his spearmanship, should be able to enter the World Martial Arts Tournament. These team members' eyes were filled with excitement and fervor. Only after experiencing it for themselves did they understand how terrifying a spearman ranked in the historical top 10 was. They even felt that Spear Demon Su Jingming was still at his peak, it was even possible that he was stronger than back then. 2 hours later. I believe everyone is aware of their own shortcomings in today's preliminary training. Su Jingming looked at the provincial team members. All of them were excited and fanatical, they felt that this training was really worth it. In the next 9 days, we will focus on basic training every day. When the training is over, you will have to practice more every day. Spearmanship requires years and years of practice. The strength of the entire body will naturally be transferred into every strike. It requires comprehension and hard work, Su Jingming said. Yes, coach, replied the 11 team members in unison. It was obvious that Su Jingming had won them over, they idolized him. Alright, you're dismissed, Su Jingming nodded and said. Take the bus back to the hotel first, Lu Chongyuan instructed. Alright. The team members put down their weapons and left in 2s and 3s. Ah Chen, help me entertain Coach Lu, Su Jingming said. Bear, I'm covered in sweat. I'm going to take a shower and get a change of clothes. We'll meet downstairs later. The barbecue restaurant next to our center is my favorite restaurant in Binhai City. Oh. I have to try it then. Lu Chongyuan, who was as big as a bear, also looked forward to it. Professional martial artists did a lot of training, so they ate a lot. All of them liked meat. Meanwhile, Su Jingming quickly went to take a shower. Although he was a coach, he was already drenched in sweat after 2 hours of training. Even so, he was used to it. In martial arts training, it was very common to squeeze dry soaked clothes repeatedly. After Su Jingming washed up, he changed into a short-sleeved shirt and a pair of berms and walked out. He saw a middle-aged man smoking outside. "Senior brother, why are you here?" Su Jingming smiled in surprise. The person in front of him was Fong Xinglong, and he was the boss of Cosmo Center. It was a first-rate combat center in Binhai City, and the building occupied an area exceeding 11,000 square meters. Su Jingming, a professional martial artist, didn't have that much wealth. He was invited to be center head. Fong Xinglong's main business involved selling alcohol, and he was a boss with a net worth of billions. He loved martial arts and weapon combat and was willing to spend money on his hobby. He was quite famous in the martial arts circle and was the disciple of Tiger Lu Hai. The World Martial Arts Tournament had been established for nearly 30 years. Lu Hai had been the head coach of the national team for 20 years, and most of the national team members had to call him master. Lu Hai was already 45 years old when the first World Martial Arts Tournament was held. As a famous martial artist from the older generation, he was overjoyed when he found out about the tournament. He consecutively entered 5 World Martial Arts tournaments and fought against experts from all over the world. Because the rules of protection weren't perfect in the early days, it was even more dangerous than what the tournament currently had in place. Lu Hai had taken 3rd place twice, 2nd place twice, and 1st place once. After he became world number 1, he announced his retirement. He became the head coach of the national team at the age of 50 and only announced his retirement at the age of 70. Back then, Su Jingming was the national team's linchpin and also Lu Hai's beloved disciple. Fong Xinglong was an amateur, but he loved combat very much. Thus, he also thought of ways to become Lu Hai's disciple. Jingming. Fong Xinglong took a drag and looked at his good friend. "Did you offend someone?" Chapter 3. Su Jingming and Li Miaomiao. 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Who did I offend? Su Jingming asked. Fong Xinglong looked at Su Jingming and gave a name. Cheng Zihao. Su Jingming immediately understood what was happening and asked calmly, "Senior brother, did he talk to you?" "Yes." Fong Xinglong nodded. Su Jingming nodded. "I did cross him. You're a professional martial artist, you joined the provincial team in high school and then the national team. You've been in the professional martial arts circle for so many years. How did you cross Cheng Zihao?" Fong Xinglong found it incomprehensible since both parties weren't in the same circles at all. Su Jingming smiled. Life is full of endless possibilities. Cut the smiling act. Fong Xinglong was a little worried. Can't you resolve your conflict with him? No. Su Jingming shook his head. Fong Xinglong put out the cigarette in his hand and glanced at his junior brother. Jingming, that's Cheng Zihao. If you offend him, you'll suffer a ban on the internet. I know, it's the Cheng family. Su Jingming sighed with emotion. The Cheng family controls the Tiger Shark Group, a company with a market capitalization of more than 5 trillion. It's one of the top 3 internet companies, and it's indeed scary. The Cheng family was one of the top 10 richest families in China, their family wealth exceeded 500 billion. The number 1 live streaming platform in China, Tiger Shark, was established more than 60 years ago by a legendary figure of the Cheng family, Cheng Yunxiu. The Tiger Shark Group hadn't declined after 6 decades and had instead grown stronger. It had grown into an internet giant conglomerate with Tiger Shark platform as its core business. It had its hands in e-commerce, music, gaming, and many other industries. Of Tiger Shark Group's market capitalization that exceeded 5 trillion, the founders, the Qing family, had 8.2% of the outstanding shares. Furthermore, they had more than 50% of the voting rights, allowing them to have a firm grasp of Tiger Shark Group. The Tiger Shark Group had been under the control of its founder, Qing Yunxiu, for 30 years. After his death, it was managed by his only son, Qing Liwei. Qing Zihao was Qing Liwei's son, aged 32. On the internet, the Tiger Shark Group is one of the top 3 mega corporations. It is also the #1 live stream platform. As a martial artist, you have no idea how terrifying its influence is. Fang Xinglong looked at his junior brother anxiously. Of course, I know, Su Jingming said with a smile. After being banned, I won't be able to carry out any commercial activities, and I won't receive any publicity on the internet. My fame will also evaporate quickly. For martial artists, fame was very important. The more famous one was, the higher the income. In terms of results at martial arts competitions, although Su Jingming was quite strong, he was only considered a C.lister among the top martial artists in the history of China. His master, Lu Hai, who was legendary, was considered an A.lister. After all, he had been in the top 3 for 5 consecutive tournaments while in his 40s and had even been the world's #1. There were 3 A.listers, and each of them was a legend. Their appearance fee for a match between titans was over 100 million, and the cumulative income from their careers was even more terrifying. Historical top players, B.listers, either had been in the top 3 globally or were those that had retired after scraping first place. They were often mentioned by people. The appearance fee for matches between greats was usually over 10 million. Su Jingming had made it into the World Martial Arts Tournament twice, placing in the top 16 once and the top 8 once. The highest appearance fee was only 1.5 million, and his highest income was still the prize money for entering the World Martial Arts Tournament's top 8. After working hard for so many years, he had only accumulated a balance of about 8 digits. Income was a proxy for strength and status. In terms of results, he was a C.lister in China. In terms of fame, his fame would rapidly vanish once he was banned on the internet. Gladiators also need to put food on the table. Sometimes, it's better to compromise, Fang Xinglong persuaded. Senior brother, Su Jingming said seriously, you know that there are some things where a compromise is impossible. Fang Xinglong was taken aback, but he nodded slightly and said worriedly, banning you is a small matter. I'm afraid Qing Zihao will come after you. Su Jingming smiled and said, at most, I'll go back to my hometown, Minghua City. In Minghua City, there are over 1,000 disciples from the 8 Extremities sect and the Poking Foot sect. Let's see how he's going to make trouble for me. Besides, there are surveillance cameras everywhere in this modern-day society. What can he do? Then, what do you plan on doing back in Minghua City? Fang Xinglong asked. If I open a center and do some high-end private teaching, I won't starve, Su Jingming said. I'm the spear demon after all. I rely on my skills to make a living, I won't starve anywhere. Fang Xinglong shook his head. In a second-tier city like Minghua City, it's already good enough that you can earn $1 million a year. I've earned a lot over the years, so there's plenty of interest and dividend income, Su Jingming said. Senior brother, don't worry about me. Su Jingming was mentally prepared after falling out with Qing Zihao. He would just earn less. He had been influenced by his father since he was a child and had become a disciple of the 8 Extremities sect and Poking Foot sect, 2 great traditional martial arts schools in Minghua City. Ever since the World Martial Arts Tournament became the world's largest martial arts tournament, the traditional martial arts schools in the country regained their former fame. All kinds of weapons and fighting techniques gained a new lease of life. In modern society, it was fine for people to join several sects as disciples. Su Jingming's father was a martial arts blogger when he was young. He traveled the world and visited all the martial arts schools in the world. He had joined more than 10 martial arts schools domestically and had even inherited the teachings of the Eight Extremities lineage. After settling down in Mingyue City, he even founded the Eight Extremities sect in Mingyue City. There were many martial arts schools all over the country in modern society. Eight Extremities sect, which had an unbroken heritage, had hundreds around the country. Su Jingming was the heir of Mingyue City's Eight Extremities sect, and he was also the disciple of Mingyue City's Poking Foot sect master. He could open a martial arts school and accept disciples or do some private tutoring to earn a living. Perhaps it'll be more suitable for me to go back to my hometown and focus on practicing my spearmanship. If I can attain a higher level, I can make a comeback and become the world's #1, Su Jingming thought. He had never given up on his dream of becoming world champion. His master, Lu Hai, had entered the World Martial Arts Tournament 5 times in a row even though he was in his 40s, and he eventually managed to become the world's #1. He was only 29 this year, so how could he give up? If he became world champion, the prize money for coming in first would be 500 million, he would also attract the attention of the entire world. The official media would cover him, and it wasn't something Ching Zihao could dismiss. As for now, he was a retired professional gladiator. There was nothing he could do about being banned without achievements to speak of. Senior brother, what did Ching Zihao say to you? Su Jingming looked at Fang Xinglong. Ching Zihao asked someone to pass on a message to me, asking me to fire you. Fang Xinglong was ashamed. Jingming, you know that I sell alcohol. Some of the sales channels are on Tiger Shark Group's live.streaming and e.commerce platforms. Moreover, a lot of publicity has to be done through the Tiger Shark Group. Although I feel aggrieved, I can't afford to offend Ching Zihao. After all, the company doesn't belong to me alone. Senior brother, I know your predicament. Su Jingming nodded. He relied on his skills to make a living. With his skills as one of the top spearmen in the world in the past 3 decades, he wasn't afraid of starving. It was just a matter of having more or less to eat. However, Fang Xinglong was a businessman, and the alcohol company was the foundation of his business career. His options were limited in the face of the Tiger Shark Group. I'll leave after the training for the provincial team ends, Su Jingming said. Fang Xinglong was a little tired. Can you tell me about your conflict with Ching Zihao? I don't want to say. Su Jingming shook his head. I can only say that he's crazy. Crazy. Fang Xinglong fell into thought as he nodded slightly. All right, I won't say anything more. I'm sorry for letting you down. It's not on you, but me. Su Jingming knew Fang Xinglong very well. He was straightforward and sincere, and his character was unquestionable. Otherwise, he wouldn't have accepted Fang Xinglong's invitation to be the head of this center. Senior brother, I'm scheduled to have a meal with Chongyuan, so I'll make a move first. We can talk over the phone, Su Jingming said with a smile and left. Fang Xinglong stood still and watched Su Jingming leave. Ching Zihao, Fang Xinglong whispered to himself. He did business and became a billionaire at the age of 40, so he was very proud of himself. He loved martial arts, weapons, and combat. For his hobby, he had spent a lot of money to build the Cosmos Center. How could he not be angry at Ching Zihao's request to fire his junior brother? I can't afford to offend him, Fang Xinglong muttered silently and held his breath. He needed to know when to quit, a lesson he learned from his years in the business world. It was just that with his current status, it was rare for him to feel so aggrieved. Ching Zihao, if you don't follow the rules and play dirty, you will stumble one day, Fang Xinglong thought to himself. Fang Xinglong was also thinking about how he could help his junior brother. He had less than 10 friends that he thought highly of, and Su Jingming was one of them. Naturally, he didn't want to see his junior brother suffer so much. Under the hazy night, Su Jingming pushed open the door and entered a terrace villa in the eastern suburbs of Binhai City. In the bedroom, a slender woman in pajamas was slumped against the backrest and wore a pair of rather large glasses. She held a controller in each hand. Jingming, wait for me to finish this game. The girl in pajamas had a pair of spirited eyes. Her glasses were virtual glasses that had immersion mode and reality mode. Reality mode lowered the opacity of the game's imagery, allowing one to see the outside world. Meow meow, you need to exercise more. It's not good for your body to lie down all day, Su Jingming said. Alright, got it, the woman in pajamas answered casually, her hands moving non-stop. Su Jingming felt helpless. This woman in pajamas was his girlfriend, Li Miao Miao. Chapter 4. Su Jingming and Li Miao Miao, 2, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Su Jingming left the bedroom and walked to the basement. The basement was more than 100 square meters, and there were 3 spears placed against the wall. Su Jingming casually picked one up. The spear was silver-gray in color and was 2.56 meters long. The spear tip also had a cushioning layer. Although he was very relaxed and casual when he was chatting with senior brother Fong as well as during dinner with his good friend, Lu Chongyuan, Su Jingming felt a fire burning in his heart. White, activate training monitoring, Su Jingming said. Copy that. Lights lit up in the basement as the cameras started to turn on. Su Jingming produced a vibrating sound when he pulled the spear with both hands. Su Jingming's way of holding the spear was reversed. Traditional spear users usually held the end of the spear with their right hand and the middle of the spear with their left, but Su Jingming did the opposite. As he advanced swiftly, he exerted his strength and thrust his spear forward. Pooh! 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 The spears shot out like arrows, like 7 or 8 arrows that were about to pierce through all the enemies in front of them. Every spear tore through the air with a sharp whistle. Data appeared on the wall, 18.2 meters per second, 18.6 meters per second, 17.9 meters per second, 18.1 m/s. It accurately produced the maximum speed of each thrust. Boom! The spear in Su Jingming's hand suddenly stabbed forward. There was an ear-piercing explosion, and the spear became a blur. The projection on the wall displayed 25.3 meters per second. Su Jingming's most famous move. Shadowless thrust. Everyone in the industry knew how terrifying the speed of such a strike was. When it came to melee combat, even the world's top experts wouldn't be able to withstand it. Su Jingming took 2 steps and arrived beside a heavy sandbag. He then rotated his waist like a huge spinning gear and transferred all of his strength into his arms, sweeping the long spear across the sandbag. The sandbag weighing 300 kilograms was suspended from the track above. It was a specially customized overweight sandbag. Bang! A low rumble sounded. The projection on the wall displayed 625 kilograms. It was precisely this terrifying force of over 500 kilograms that sent those provincial team members' spears flying with just a touch. Su Jingming moved as he unleashed his spear at the heavy sandbag. Every time he swung and struck, a deep and mighty sound would erupt. The 300-kilogram sandbag kept shaking from the impact, and the projection on the wall kept updating. 656 kilograms, 689 kilograms, 630 kg. Suddenly, he stopped. Su Jingming suddenly took a step forward, his entire body akin to a cannonball. His spear seemed to be one with his entire body, the tip of the cannonball that crashed into the sandbag. Bam! The heavy sandbag was blasted to the other end of the suspension and flew up high. A number appeared on the wall. 1,138 kilograms, Su Jingming's other ultimate move. Mountain shattering. Su Jingming had received his father's guidance since he was a child. He had learned the 8 extremities, poking foot, and the 6-direction spear. In modern society, the martial arts schools also drew upon the essence of each other. Many schools created training methods that employed the concepts of applying force in different ways. When he was 20 years old, Su Jingming's right leg was broken by his opponent's shield during the World Martial Arts Tournament. After that, he focused on theory crafting his spearmanship while recuperating. Su Jingming studied physics in university and dissected traditional martial arts techniques from a physical point of view. He always believed that all forms of force delivery were in line with science. The bones, joints, and muscles of the body were also levers, bearings, and power sources. Thanks to his deep foundation built from a young age, he had a deeper understanding of how to exert force from a physical point of view. He constantly tried to adjust the technique of force delivery. Finally, with the traditional 1-inch punch as a foundation, he created shadowless thrust. He had also used the force delivery technique in 8 Extremities Iron Mountain to create mountain shattering. Moreover, the other techniques of his spear art had also improved to a certain extent. Blocking, grabbing, breaking, hacking, sweeping. Su Jingming's strength could be increased by a huge margin from a seemingly casual application of force delivery. With this spear art, even though Su Jingming's movement suffered from his leg injury, he still managed to enter the top 8 at the following year's World Martial Arts Tournament during his comeback at 25 years of age. The importance of footwork could be said to be half of the actual combat experience. Su Jingming's footwork had major flaws, yet he was able to make it into the top 8. This was testimony of his terrifying spearmanship. He had also been ranked by the World Martial Arts Alliance as one of the top 10 spearmen in the past 30 years, earning him the title of Spear Demon. But during that competition, Su Jingming realized that having a wounded leg made it impossible for him to become world number 1 unless there was a qualitative change in his spearmanship. Also, his participation in more competitions would only serve to aggravate his injuries. Hence, he announced his retirement after that competition. Professional gladiators were at their prime at the age of 26, but Su Jingming retired with injuries. In the basement, Su Jingming's face was covered in sweat. He walked to the wall and gently placed the spear down. Looking at the 3 training spears in front of him, Su Jingming fell silent. So what if he was good with spears? In modern society, martial arts fighting was just a sport. Facing Qing Ziheo's coercion, he could only endure it. There was no other way. Jingming. The pajamas-wearing Li Miao Miao walked down the stairs and looked at her sweaty boyfriend. What's wrong? Normally, Su Jingming rested when he returned after a day of training at the center. He rarely practiced his spear. Moreover, as she looked at the back of her boyfriend, who was standing by the wall, she could faintly sense his bad mood. I'll tell you when we get upstairs. Su Jingming turned off the lights and brought Li Miao Miao to the living room on the first floor. In the living room. 5, bring me 2 bottles of juice, Su Jingming said as he and Li Miao Miao sat on the sofa. The latter asked, Jingming, what happened? At this moment, a female robot came to Su Jingming and Li Miao Miao's side with a bottle of fruit juice in each hand. She handed the juice to the 2 of them. 5 was very familiar with the juice that her master and mistress often drank. 5 was a butler robot. She could do housework, cook meals, chat with others, be a bodyguard. She was capable in every aspect and had reached level 3 intelligence. The price of such a smart bot was comparable to a luxurious sports car. Spill it. Li Miao Miao poked Su Jingming's shoulder while drinking. As you expected, Qing Ziheo has followed up and forced me to lose my job. Su Jingming shook his head and said, he's insane, he has no bottom line. Forget it. I only joined the center thanks to senior brother's invitation. With my spearmanship, I can make a living anywhere. Calm down. Li Miao Miao hugged her boyfriend's arm and comforted him. It's not worth getting angry over a scumbag. Su Jingming looked at his girlfriend and nodded. His girlfriend, Li Miao Miao, was a talented singer. She didn't sign with a company, nor did she have a manager. She attended Binhai Music Academy for university. During her university days, she did her first live stream on the internet, and a song that she had composed herself, Pearwood, went viral on the internet. Her voice was very clean, and her songs had a special, magical power that soothed the soul. During her university days, she wrote more than 30 songs. Just based on the number of downloads, she earned tens of millions. She was one of the special few in the music industry. She didn't participate in any variety shows and didn't have a company or a manager. She would stream her singing once a month and would occasionally post some videos. Other than singing videos, she streamed video games. Her favorite game was Pugilist OL. In the game, she was a high-level feline swordswoman. There were many professional gladiators who played Pugilist OL. Su Jingming occasionally played and got to know Li Miaomiao's Smurf account. Li Miaomiao had never seen a player use the spear that well, so she immediately added Su Jingming as a friend and used various methods to pull him into a team. Through the game, Su Jingming's heart was stirred by this feline swordswoman, and the two gradually got together. Cheng Zihao is a scumbag. Li Miaomiao hugged her boyfriend's arm and said, he claims to be celibate, yet he has so many girlfriends. How can I be interested in him? If I wanted fame and fortune, I wouldn't be live-streaming only once a month. Although they had never met in real life, Cheng Zihao chased after Li Miaomiao relentlessly. Despite knowing that the latter had a boyfriend and that she was getting married, Cheng Zihao didn't stop. Su Jingming sighed with emotion. Miao, you're quite straightforward. You blocked him and even changed platforms to open an account on another live-streaming platform, Microcosm. I only broadcast once a month, Li Miao said with a smile. I can still slowly accumulate fans even if I switch platforms. Microcosm's platform also has nearly half Tiger Shark's traffic. It's not bad. I think you're the only one who doesn't mind switching accounts after taking years to accumulate millions of fans, Su Jingming said. I earn money from my royalties. As for live broadcasts, I'll leave it up to fate. Li Miaomiao drank her fruit juice and said, life is all about happiness after all. If I'm unhappy, I'll just switch platforms. Su Jingming was quite touched. Faced with threats and alluring promises, Li Miaomiao didn't hesitate to block the other party and change platforms. Actually, our income is high enough. We don't have to tire ourselves out, Li Miaomiao comforted her boyfriend. Yeah. Su Jingming nodded. The two of them had already talked about blocking Cheng Zihao's contact details. After all, out of sight, out of mind. Are you planning to return to Minghua City? Li Miaomiao asked. Yeah, it's easy to open a center and do high-end private tutoring in Minghua City, Su Jingming said. Are you planning on returning with me? We'll be registering our marriage on New Year's Day, so you should go back early to meet your parents. In law. Su Jingming and Li Miaomiao had a good relationship. They both agreed to register their marriage on New Year's Day, a special date that meant they would be one life. Their parents had also met and given their blessings. Let's go back to Minghua City. It will be permanent. Li Miaomiao looked around the living room. Many things here have to be moved over too. I also have to bid farewell to my friends in Binhai City. I've been here since university. It's been so many years, I really can't bear to leave so suddenly. If you really can't bear to, Su Jingming said. Let's go back. I want to go home too. Li Miaomiao smiled faintly. My parents and grandparents are all in Minghua City. I want to go back too. They were indeed fated. They met in game, and both hailed from Minghua City. Head back first and clean up the house in Minghua City. Get everything ready, Li Miaomiao said. I have to bid farewell to my friends. I also have to make arrangements for my assistant. She had hired 2 assistants, who were in charge of her commercial matters. Her 2 assistants had to follow her to Minghua City, so she had to make arrangements to relocate them. Okay. Su Jingming nodded. The house he bought had been left empty for several years, but his parents often brought robots over to clean it. Go take a shower first. You reek of alcohol and sweat. Didn't I tell you not to drink? Li Meow Meow said angrily. Bear came. We haven't seen each other for more than a year, and I only drank some beer, Su Jingming said immediately. I'll go take a shower. Then, he immediately ran out of the living room. Li Meow Meow sat on the sofa and thought about her life in Mingyue City with Su Jingming. She felt very happy. Beep. An image appeared in front of Li Meow Meow. It was a middle-aged man and woman. Dad, Mom, Li Meow Meow greeted happily. Have you had dinner? We've already eaten. The middle-aged man said, Meow Meow, your uncle came to our house tonight. Uncle. Hasn't he not visited in years? He didn't come when we invited relatives over in the year I attended university. Li Meow Meow was puzzled. Her uncle's wife had an important figure on her side of the family. After her uncle's family managed to cozy up to the important figure, they managed to become a tycoon after years of work. They had more than $1 billion in assets. Her uncle and his wife looked down on the poor relatives of the Li family and rarely interacted with them. Would he visit for no reason? He came because of you. Mrs. Li scoffed. Me. Li Meow Meow was puzzled. He wants you to be the girlfriend of the Qing family's scion, Qing Zihao. He came to our house to persuade the two of us, Mrs. Li said angrily. If this shameless old man wants to get rich from selling daughters, he should sell his own daughter. He wants my daughter to jump into the fire. Qing Zihao is a playboy. He has said many times in variety shows that he doesn't want to marry. How can a playboy like him be worthy of my daughter? Mr. Li added, your mother and I scolded your uncle until he left. That Qing Zihao is a profligate, nothing like little Su. Your mother and I support you. Thanks, Dad. Thanks, Mom. Li Meow Meow smiled. Her parents were determined to support her, so she no longer had many worries. Meow Meow, your future husband is the one who will be by your side the longest, not us. Mr. Li looked at his daughter. Your mother and I are old, so you have to choose a good husband. A woman's marriage is like a second reincarnation. The ancients have a saying. The worst thing for a woman is to get married to the wrong man. Little Su is an honest martial arts practitioner. Even after his retirement, he still spends most of his time practicing martial arts. I'm still quite a good judge of character. Yes. Li Meow Meow nodded. After chatting for some time, Li Meow Meow ended the video call with her parents. On the other end of the video call, Mr. and Mrs. Li sat in the living room. Honey, you have to take care of Meow Meow in the future, Mr. Li said. Chenin, are you really going to hide your illness from Meow Meow? Mrs. Li's eyes turned red. Mr. Li shook his head and said, you know that this is a terminal illness. Even if I use all kinds of medical treatments, I will only be able to live an additional 1 or 2 years, and it will be miserable. Undergoing conservative treatment and leading a happy life still allows me to live for a year or so, that's enough. I just want my daughter to get married happily and not let them worry about me at such a time. When they get married and I can no longer keep my illness under wraps, I will tell them about it in my final month. It's useless to tell her now. It will only add to our daughter's troubles. Mr. Li chuckled. In life, the fewer troubles a person has, the better. The happier the days, the better. I just hope my daughter can have more happy days. You lead your entire life always having others in mind, Mrs. Li said with reddened eyes. Didn't I just scold my brother today? Did you see his face? I can't believe I dared to give him a piece of my mind. Mr. Li laughed. The closer he was to death, the clearer he saw things. Life was just like that. The most important thing was to be happy. Chapter 5. Master Lu Hai, you are listening at novelfull.audio. In a towering skyscraper in Penghai City. Ching Zihao lay on a gaming chair, wearing a pair of virtual glasses. Suddenly, a knock sounded on the office door. "Come in." Ching Zihao switched his virtual glasses to reality mode and looked at the middle-aged man walking in. After the middle-aged man came in, he closed the door and said in a fawning tone, "Boss, Cosmo Center in Binhai City has decided to fire Su Jingming. I used a different account to contact Su Jingming, but he blocked me again." "How decisive," said the fair-skinned Ching Zihao with a laugh. "Li Miao Miao blocked me, and Su Jingming blocked us. The two of them are quite interesting. Is this what they mean by, love is thicker than water? Ha ha ha. How interesting. Oh right, where's Li Yuanping? He's Li Miao Miao's uncle." Li Yuanping personally visited Li Miao Miao's parents, but her parents showed clear approval of Su Jingming as a son-in-law and chased him out, the middle-aged man said. "How useless." Ching Zihao frowned slightly. Li Miao Miao is really different from other singers. Does she not care about fame and fortune? She has already changed live streaming platforms. Her most recent live stream was done on Microcosm, the middle-aged man stated helplessly. Besides, she has never signed a long-term contract with our platform. She only broadcasts once a month and has never cared about earning money from live streaming. She's pretty chill. Boss, what do we do next? Li Miao Miao and Su Jingming are public figures, and they have such a tough attitude. Forget it. There are many things in the world that I like, and I can't have them all. Ching Zihao shook his head. Let's put an end to Li Miao Miao's matter for the time being, but continue paying attention to her. People will change. I don't believe that she will always disregard fame and fortune. Yes. The middle-aged man nodded and smiled. She might be young, and she might not care about fame and fortune in her early 20s, but in a few years, she might realize the importance of fame and fortune after being beaten down by society. I might not like her if she becomes snobbish in a few years, Ching Zihao said calmly. You may leave. Yes, sir. The middle-aged man left respectfully. Ching Zihao switched his virtual glasses to immersion mode. To him, Li Miao Miao was just a mere ripple in his life, he had never taken her seriously. In immersion mode, a huge projection of stock market charts appeared. The capital market was what he really cared about. Why did Tiger Shark's share price drop by 8% today? I didn't hear of any massive short positions. Ching Zihao found it incomprehensible since it was rare for Tiger Shark Group's shares to plummet. Dad ordered me not to have any of my investments related to Tiger Shark Group as a way of risk diversification. I'll just let Dad worry about it. Ching Zihao didn't think too much about it. The family's largest asset was 8.2% of the Tiger Shark Group's shares, so he was naturally concerned. But according to the family rules, his personal assets had nothing to do with the Tiger Shark Group. As for the Tiger Shark Group's shares plummeting, his father, Ching Liwei, had helmed the company for over 3 decades. Ching Zihao trusted his father's abilities. An old man lived alone in an Oriental-styled villa in Beijing, other than a butler robot. This tall and stout old man sat at the dining table, eating a few cloves of garlic and beef in large mouthfuls. He also ate a few mouthfuls of the cooked vegetables. He was a legendary figure in the world's martial arts circle, Tiger Lu Hai. Lu Hai participated in the first World Martial Arts Tournament at the age of 45 and competed with experts from all over the world. It had to be known that only those ranked in the world's top 32 were qualified to participate. Most of the participants were in their 30s, so Lu Hai was definitely considered an older contestant. He had entered the tournament 5 times in a row, and he stood on the podium every single time. He even became world champion in the 5th year. He had been the head coach of the Chinese national team for 20 years. Of the legendary ones, 2 martial arts experts in China had matched him in the past 30 years. In terms of seniority, He was the oldest. Most of the top professional gladiators in China had to call him master. He was in his 70s this year, but Lu Hai still spent half a year in seclusion every year and did tough training. For example, he ate 5 meals a day, mainly beef with vegetables as supplements. He needed to do so since eating too little wasn't enough to provide him the energy for his training intensity. Ha! Lu Hai had a pair of eyes that emitted a domineering aura like a tiger's. The domineering aura was incredible. It was a powerful field brought about by his powerful physique. He stood at 1.92 meters tall and weighed 110 kilograms. His body and technique had been honed to an astonishing level, judging from how he had reached the podium without suffering any injuries for 5 consecutive years during the World Martial Arts Tournament's early days, when the rules were still in their nascent stages. What is this? Lu Hai looked at the information on the light screen in front of him and widened his eyes. This son of a bitch is bullying my disciple. Fang Xinglong, Lu Hai shouted. An image of Fang Xinglong appeared in the projection, and Fang Xinglong said respectfully, "Master, I thought about it the entire night yesterday and couldn't think of any solutions, so I decided to inform you about it." Junior brother joined the provincial team in high school. He has lived like an ascetic monk for so many years, his mind is focused on martial arts. Who would have thought that Ching Zihao would bully him? Junior brother refused to say anything in front of me. I've asked around, and it seems to be related to junior brother's girlfriend. Love is such an annoying matter. Many young people have ruined their future because of love. Lu Hai shook his head. He was in his 70s and still confined himself for half a year every year. He didn't meet anyone. Love and society would only affect the speed of his attacks. Master, do you have a way to help junior brother? Fang Xinglong asked. He knew that his master had a lot of connections. It's a large commercial corporation. What can I do? I'll think about it, you don't have to worry about this matter, Lu Hai said. All right, master. I'll heed your instructions, Fang Xinglong replied immediately. The projection vanished. Lu Hai sat there and thought as he chewed on the cooked beef. He felt that the beef in his mouth had lost its taste. Jingming's physique is still too weak. If he had trained his physique for 3 more years before entering the World Martial Arts Tournament, he wouldn't have broken his leg and ruined his future. Lu Hai sighed to himself. His talent in spearmanship is excellent, but he raised his world ranking too quickly. Entering the World Martial Arts Tournament too early only brought him harm. He was still too young then, reaching the highest echelons at the World Martial Arts Tournament while only 20. With his talent, if he had entered the World Martial Arts Tournament at 23 or 24 years of age, he would have had a chance of becoming world champion. How glorious would that be? Would he be forced into his current predicament? Lu Hai thought. All he knew was martial arts, so it wasn't easy for him to help his disciple either. Old Guo, Lu Hai greeted. A projection condensed in front of him, and a figure appeared on it. It was a white-haired elder sitting in front of a desk. Brother Hai, what's the matter? The white-haired old man also had a high status, but he was still very respectful to Lu Hai, who was 3 years younger than him. He even called Lu Hai Brother Hai. The two had been friends for decades. Old Guo, about that list of people to receive the government's patronage. Lu Hai put down the beef. I have the freedom to recommend one person to that list, right? I thought about it and plan on recommending Su Jingming. Su Jingming. The white-haired elder thought for a moment and said, you have the right to recommend, but it needs to be reviewed eventually. There are only 20 people on the list. Martial arts masters like yourself take up 12 spots, and the other martial arts schools take up 5. There are only 3 spots left. If Su Jingming wants to compete for those 3 spots. To be honest, his CV is a little lacking. Jingming is only 29 this year, and he has great potential. Moreover, he made it into the top 8 of the World Martial Arts Tournament despite having a seriously injured leg. If not for the leg injury, he would have become world champion, Lu Hai said. We are well aware of what you just said, but I have to tell you that his chances of competing for the 3 spots are relatively slim. Are you sure you want to recommend him? Asked the elder. Most of my best disciples have gone onto the podium and have obtained the title of martial arts master, only Jingming and Xiaotong regretfully didn't make it. Xiaotong has already given up on martial arts, but Jingming has never given up despite all these years. His character has been the same for years, he's worth grooming. In that case, quickly write a detailed recommendation letter, the sooner, the better. It's best if you send it to me today so that I can send it to the selection committee, said the white-haired elder. As for whether it succeeds, it will still have to go through the higher-ups final review. Okay. Lu Hai nodded. When the projection disappeared, Lu Hai continued chewing on his beef and thought to himself, there are a total of 12 people in China who stood on the podium at the World Martial Arts Tournament after all these years. Of these 12, I'm the oldest, and there's also a disabled person. There are a few who are out of shape, and one even has cancer. However, these 12 people are all on that patronage list. Can the disabled, cancer-stricken, and elderly be groomed? The higher-ups say that it's great news, but they didn't disclose the details. I wonder what great news it is, Lu Hai thought. If Jingming can enter the list, it can be considered a chance. Lu Hai's idea was very simple. So his disciple had encountered trouble. If his disciple became stronger, his troubles would vanish. It might even become the other party's troubles then. Chapter 6. Yang Qingshua, 1, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Su Jingming didn't know that his master, Lu Hai, had recommended him to the list. He had handed over his job at the gym. Once the Jiangnan provincial team's training was over, he could return to his hometown, Minghua City. In the afternoon, Su Jingming was training in a special room at the gym. He held a solid steel rod that had a diameter of 4 centimeters and a length of 3.2 meters with both hands. The rod's head swung from time and time again, completing a curved trajectory up, down, left, right. The trajectories that the rod drew were only a part of a circle. This steel rod was a rod with a solid stainless steel core commonly used in industrial applications. It weighed 32 kilograms. It was very unsuitable for combat, but it was suitable for strength training and force delivery of the entire body. Beep. 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 Su Jingming put down the steel rod and picked up a towel to wipe his sweat. He looked at the name on the screen and said, "White, answer the video call." A projection appeared in midair. It was a young man. "Sure." Su Jingming smiled happily. "What a rare occasion for you to call me." The young man in front of him was Yang Qingshua, Su Jingming's best friend. They attended the same university and were both on the school's martial arts team. Teammates back then were arranged to be in the same dormitory, and he and Yang Qingshua shared the same bunk bed. In his freshman year, Su Jingming became the champion of the National University Martial Arts Tournament, and Yang Qingshua came in 7th. Su Jingming joined the national team in his freshman year, and Yang Qingshua was selected to join the national team in his sophomore year. The friends who shared a bunk bed joined the national team together and stayed with the national team for several years. They practiced martial arts together every day and lived in the same dorm room, so it was easy to imagine their close relationship. They weren't biological brothers, but they were closer than biological brothers. "Can't I just call?" Yang Qingshua smiled bashfully. Yang Qingshua was a very reserved and shy person. Those who were familiar with him knew this very well. "Sure, you seem to have put on quite a bit of weight." Su Jingming was surprised. Yang Qingshua used to be very handsome and thin, but he had put on a lot of weight and looked a little chubby. The twinkle in his eyes also wasn't as sharp as before. "My child will be attending primary school this year, it's normal for me to put on weight," Yang Qingshua said. "Right, your child is already capable of doing chores, but I'm not married yet. As for you, You registered your marriage the moment you reached legal age. How awkward was it for the bunch of us old friends? Su Jingming teased. Who would have thought that the youngest and surest of the national team, Yang Qingxue, would be the first to get married? Yang Qingxue smiled and didn't say anything. Why did you call me today? Su Jingming asked with a smile. Many of his good friends from university and the national team had separated and were scattered all over the country, but it was very normal to call each other once a year or two. Yes, there's something. Yang Qingxue hesitated for a moment and said, Brother Su, something cropped up, and I need to borrow some money. Borrow money. Su Jingming felt a knot in his heart. He didn't care about the money, he was worried about Shuo. Shuo used to be the national team's linchpin, and he joined the sports bureau in Jibei province after his retirement. His income is quite good too. Why would he be forced to borrow money? Did something happen? Su Jingming asked. My mother is in the hospital, and the prescription drugs that aren't covered by insurance cost quite a lot, Yang Qingxue said. How much do you need? Su Jingming asked. 1 million, Yang Qingxue said. It might take me a year to pay you back. Su Jingming nodded. Okay, I'll transfer to you right away. He began thinking about it. Shuo was also the national team's linchpin back then and had entered the World Martial Arts Tournament once. Although he was eliminated in the preliminaries, the prize money he received was only the most basic, 1 million, and the appearance fee for the tournament wasn't high. He could save up a few million after a few years of hard work. For him to borrow money from me means that he is in trouble. Su Jingming was mentally prepared to not have the money be returned when lending money to others. He wouldn't be so generous if normal friends wanted to borrow money from him, but Yang Qingxue was his best friend since childhood. Su Jingming tapped the projection screen as he spoke and entered his finances platform. His stocks, insurance, savings, everything was listed clearly, and he quickly finished the transfer. Has it reached you? Su Jingming asked. Got it. Yang Qingxue was thrilled when he received the money. It was torturous to be short of money. Brother Su, thanks. Sure, I'll be going on a business trip to the capital today. I'll find you when I pass by Jinmen, Su Jingming said. Give me your address, I'll look for you. Today. Yang Qingxue was surprised. When are you arriving? Probably around 5, Su Jingming said after calculating the time. I'll still be at work. I'll give you the company's address. Yang Qingxue gave him an address. Su Jingming saw the address, Katie Gym, and was a little surprised. You left Jibei Sports Bureau. Yeah, I left. Yang Qingxue nodded. Brother Su, I have class. We'll talk later. Alright, let's have a good chat when we meet, Su Jingming said. He waved his hand gently, and the projection in front of him turned into specks of light that disappeared. Su Jingming's smile disappeared as he stood there silently. Shuo doesn't look right. He even left the sports bureau and went to a gym. It's not even a famous gym. He was once the national team's linchpin, yet he's at a gym. They were professional gladiators. How much of what they had learned in their careers be utilized at a gym? I'll see what's up at Jinmen. Su Jingming immediately bought a high-speed rail ticket. The high-speed rail traveled at speeds of up to 600 km per hour, so he could arrive in Jinmen in 2 hours. He had lied about going on a business trip to Beijing. Su Jingming was worried about his good friend, so he specially made a trip to Jinmen to meet Yang Qingxue. By hailing a ride online that was dispatched by an AI system, he arrived at the high-speed rail station in 15 minutes. Soon, Su Jingming took the high-speed rail and went straight to Jinmen City in the north. At 4:53 p.m., he arrived at the entrance of Katie Gym in Jinmen City. I'm here. Su Jingming looked up at the gym, which occupied a rather large area, and walked in. The female staff at the front desk smiled and said, "Welcome. My surname is Su, I'm looking for Yang Qingxua," Su Jingming said. "I've made an appointment with him." "Oh, you're looking for Coach Yang. Please have a seat over here." The female staff member at the front desk was very enthusiastic. She brought Su Jingming to the reception area before pouring him a glass of water. At this moment, on the third floor of Katie Gym, Yang Qingxua was giving a class to a group of female members. The female members were panting after completing the boxing routine. "Alright, let's take a 2-minute break," Yang Qingxua said. "Coach Yang, I heard you participated in the World Martial Arts Tournament," a female member asked curiously. They had applied for the class because of his participation in the World Martial Arts Tournament. "I heard that martial arts competitions are divided into C Division, B Division, A Division, and the most prestigious World Martial Arts Tournament. Only those ranked in the top 32 are qualified to participate in the World Martial Arts Tournament. Every year, only the world's 32 strongest martial artists are allowed to participate. Coach Yang, have you participated?" The female members were very curious. "I've participated in the 26th World Martial Arts Tournament," Yang Qingxua nodded and said with a smile. This was also now the highlight of his resume when finding a job. "Wow! Coach Yang, can you teach us self-defense?" "That's right, Coach Yang. We weak women are too weak to resist against those men who are up to no good. Do you have any defensive techniques that can be easily learned and used against strong men?" the female members asked. "Easily learned. A weak woman can use it to handle a strong man's attacks." Yang Qingxua thought for a moment and smiled. "Alright, I'll teach you a more practical move." The female members immediately listened carefully. "Follow my instructions. Retract one leg and stand on one leg," Yang Qingxua said. All the female members stood on one leg, and they did this with verve. They only occasionally lost their balance and firmly landed their other foot. "Jump while standing on one leg," Yang Qingxua said as he demonstrated a light single-leg jump. The female members wore soft-heeled gym shoes and jumped easily on one foot. "Isn't it simple?" Yang Qingxua asked. "I jump rope 1,000 times a day. Of course, it's simple to do a single-leg jump." The female members were very relaxed, including the slightly obese female members. "Who couldn't jump a few times?" "Your weight is generally around 50 kilograms, Yang Qingxua said. "I'm far from 50 kilograms, said a fat woman with a laugh. "In other words, everyone's single-leg strength can easily deliver more than 50 kilograms of force, and you can even jump," Yang Qingxua said. "Jumping up with one leg can easily exert a force of 100 kilograms. The female members nodded. "Now, raise your leg and stomp," Yang Qingxuang said. "Jump with one leg and stomp down. Raise your leg and stomp forward. It's the same muscle strength as stomping on the ground," Yang Qingxua instructed. "Exerting strength that's the same as kicking the ground." The female members raised their legs and kicked the sandbag in front of them. With a bang, the sandbag shook. All the female members were extremely surprised. "My fists and wrists hurt from hitting this sandbag previously. My feet hurt from kicking the sandbag as well, and it didn't even budge. I managed to move it this time. Kicking the sandbag like I'm kicking the ground. There's so much strength in it." For the first time, the female members found kicking the sandbag very easy and quite powerful. This is called a straight kick. You don't have to practice much a day, just 20 times. After a month, your strength will flow smoothly. Even for women, it's easy to deliver 100 to 150 kilograms of force with one foot, Yang Qingxua said. "But this isn't something I want to teach. Watch carefully. When you lift your leg, don't use the entire bottom of your feet. Use the front of your foot, near your toes." Yang Qingxua casually kicked out, and his front foot stabbed into the sandbag like a steel rod. The sandbag produced a deep, dull sound. If you wear sports shoes or high heels, you can use the tip of your foot to exert at least 100 to 150 kilograms of force. The penetrative force is much stronger when transmitted using the tip of your foot, Yang Qingshuang said. I understand. With the same strength, the pressure will be greater when the area of contact is small, a female member said. Compared to the entire foot, the pressure from the tip of the foot might be 10 times greater. Yes, the pressure is much higher. Yang Qingshua smiled and said, this move has the profundity of poking foot traditional martial arts. Although your feet aren't as hard as those of professional gladiators, everyone usually wears shoes that have soles that are harder than the feet of professional gladiators. At least 100 to 150 kilograms of force when used against someone. Just striking the other party's thigh will leave them in excruciating pain. If I kick a man's groin. A female member's eyes lit up. Yang Qingshua immediately said, do this for self-defense only, when you are in real danger. This isn't some ordinary groin-kicking kick. Even if it doesn't land at the vital spot, an ordinary man won't even be able to withstand it when struck in the abdomen. This was, in fact, a simplified version of poking foot. Human legs walk every day. Ordinary people can walk for a few hours, but nobody in the world strolls upside down with their hands for hours, Yang Qingshuang said. The strength of a person's leg is naturally greater than the strength of their arms. Even if it's a woman, her legs can match the strength of a strong man's arm. Can I match the strength of those strong men's arms? They have arms that are thicker than my thighs, a female member said. You can stand on one leg for a few minutes and can even jump, Yang Qingshua said. How many of those strong men can carry more than 50 kilograms with one hand for a few minutes? Don't underestimate the strength of your legs. Strong men may have thick arms, but in terms of muscle efficiency, they can't compare to the muscles of female thighs, Yang Qingshua said confidently. He was a professional martial artist, so he knew the potential of one's leg muscles. Humans were bipedal animals, so their legs were innately much stronger than their arms. The strength that women could exert with their legs could easily deal with untrained men. Coach Yang, a customer with the surname Su is looking for you, a gym staff member shouted. Yang Qingshua immediately understood that Su Jingming had arrived. Chapter 7. Yang Qingshua, 2, you are listening at novelfull.audio. In the reception area, Su Jingming sat and drank his water as he examined the gym. From the renovations and space it occupied, it wasn't bad. Brother Su, said a familiar voice. Su Jingming looked up and saw Yang Qingshua walking over with a smile. It was said that Su Jingming was young and had become the national team's linchpin at a young age, but in fact, Yang Qingshua was a year younger and was the youngest one on the national team back then. The once handsome youth had gained weight. Even his hair had turned slightly white, and his eyes were filled with fatigue. Sure. Su Jingming got up. Come, let's sit inside. Yang Qingshua brought Su Jingming into a small living room with a partition. He even brought over some snacks and a fruit platter and poured 2 glasses of water. Brother Su, thanks for your help, Yang Qingshua said as he sat down. However, Su Jingming noticed that his friend's right hand was wearing a glove. He asked in confusion, what's wrong with your hand? It's summer, yet he is wearing a glove on his right hand. Yang Qingshua's expression froze, but he immediately smiled indifferently. He took off the glove on his right hand, it was a prosthetic limb. Although it was covered in bionic skin that made it resemble a real hand, one could still tell the difference from a slight observation. What happened to your hand? Su Jingming found it unbelievable. A prosthetic. Yang Qingshua smiled and put on the glove. It happened last year. A metal frame fell from a tall building under renovation, and a child was below it. I'm a professional gladiator after all, my reaction was specially honed. I immediately rushed over and grabbed the child, saving him. I blocked it with my right hand, but it was crushed by the metal frame. I could only amputate it. How did this happen? Su Jingming was a little stunned. I was lucky. Just a little more, and it wouldn't be this hand but my head. Yang Qingxua shook his head and said, if an iron frame were to fall on my head from almost 100 meters, I wouldn't even be alive. I exchanged a hand for a child's life, it was worth it. Besides, prosthetic technology is quite good these days. It can do simple stuff like carrying plates and pouring water. Su Jingming nodded slightly. So you left the sports bureau. It was an act of bravery, Yang Qingxua said. The sports bureau even awarded me and made me a role model. It's just that without my right hand, I'm ultimately unsuited to be a professional coach. Therefore, I was transferred to a desk job to do some administrative work. The salary for an administrative job is a little low, about 10,000 a month. I was in the global top 19 once, so it's not difficult to find a job that pays tens of thousands a month. Hence, I came out to go at it myself. Su Jingming understood. Most of the salaries earned at the sports bureau weren't high, only the good professional coaches had high salaries. For example, Lu Hai, the national team's head coach, received an annual salary of 10 million. Being a professional coach in the provincial team usually earned 50,000 a month, but an administrative job made him an ordinary member of the sports bureau. His salary wouldn't be comparable to that of a professional coach. Sure, if you need my help, just tell me, Su Jingming said. You've already helped me a lot by lending me money. Yang Qingxua smiled. I want to see you get married early, brother Su. You're already 30 this year. 29 by the Gregorian calendar. Su Jingming said quickly. Back home, we only count it based on the lunar calendar, Yang Qingxua said. Su Jingming blinked. Don't worry about my marriage. I'm getting married in a few months. That's good news. Who's the lucky girl? Yang Qingxua asked. Li Miao Miao, Su Jingming said. Keep it to yourself. You have to come when we hold the wedding in a few months. Li Miao Miao. Is it Li Miao Miao who sings very well, or is it someone with the same name? Yang Qingxua asked. That's her. Su Jingming nodded. Miao Miao and I don't know much about marriage and having children. You've been there and done that. In the future, get Xiaoyu to talk to Miao Miao. Yang Qingxua felt a little embarrassed as he lowered his head to take a sip of water. Xiaoyu and I got a divorce. A divorce? Su Jingming was stunned. Yeah, about half a year ago, Yang Qingxua nodded and said. Su Jingming somewhat understood. Shua became an invalid last year. He was a professional gladiator who used a spear. Now that his right hand was disabled, he couldn't use a spear anymore. He couldn't even be a professional coach, so his future income would only plummet. This was probably one of the reasons for their divorce. Divorce rates these days are high, Su Jingming said. The divorce rate over here is almost 50%. Yang Qingxua shook his head. It's good to be single. It saves me a lot of trouble. Su Jingming nodded, but he could sense the bitterness in Shua's heart. Oh right, I'll be leaving Binhai in the near future. I'll be settling down in my hometown. Su Jingming started chatting with his good friend, talking about life and some gossip in the industry. Half an hour passed. Yang Qingxua was very relaxed during the chat as if he had returned to university and his training days in the national team. Back then, he was carefree and only focused on martial arts. Brother Su, I need to make a move. Yang Qingxua looked at his watch and said, I have to prepare my son's meal. Don't let me keep you. Su Jingming got up too. It's rare for you to visit. I should have dinner with you, but... Yang Qingxua was a little embarrassed. I need to go to the capital anyway. Your son is the priority. Don't mind me, Su Jingming said. Su Jingming kind of knew that Shua had lost his father very early, and his mother was now hospitalized due to a serious illness. Now that he was a single parent, he definitely had many hardships. I'll make a move first. Su Jingming sat in a smart car he hailed online at the entrance of KD Gym. Meanwhile, the backpack-carrying Yang Qingxua watched Su Jingming leave. Then, he put on his helmet and rode an electric bike home. Although unmanned smart cars were very common these days and could be bought without a driver's license, Yang Qingxua had long sold his car. Half an hour later, Yang Qingxua, who had bought some ingredients from the market, returned home. This was a large single-floor apartment that occupied an area of 200 square meters. It was considered quite good in Jinmen City, and it had cost him 5 million yuan years ago. Dad. A boy wearing virtual glasses lay on the sofa. He excitedly took off his glasses and ran over to hug his father. Hey, buddy. Enjoying yourself? Yang Qingxua smiled. I can play to my heart's content during summer break, the boy said happily. Besides, I played mathematics and Chinese games in the morning. I've already reached the 55th level for the addition and subtraction subject in mathematics. I've also cleared the 22nd level for the Chinese pinyin game. Not bad. Yang Qingxua gave his son a kiss. The boy hugged his father affectionately and enjoyed his days with him. I'll cook dinner for you, Yang Qingxua said. All right. The boy sat back obediently and wore his virtual glasses. There was a robot beside the sofa. The robot was the only companion the boy usually had at home. I can only afford the cheapest level 1 smartbot. I don't usually have time to accompany my son and can only get the robot to accompany him. In the kitchen, Yang Qingxua looked at his son, who was gaming, and felt quite guilty. A level 1 smart bot could only clean up the house and help watch over his son or have a simple chat with him, nothing else. Cooking a meal was too complicated for it. All I can do is try my best to give my son the same life he used to have. Yang Qingxua looked at the house. After the divorce, his assets were divided equally. Yang Qingxua appeared to be living in this house, but he needed to give his wife 3.9 million in cash. All his available cash, including the property, was mortgaged for 2 million. All of it was given to his wife. To make matters worse, his mother fell seriously ill and was unable to help take care of his child. Moreover, the medical fees were very high. He had already maxed out his property mortgage and had even sold his car. He was deep in debt, but he had to hang on. Beep. 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 Yang Qingxua pressed his watch, and a projection appeared. It was a thin, fat woman in her 50s or 60s, she was Yang Qingxua's mother. Sure. Mrs. Yang's breathing sounded weak. I've done a lot of research on the internet. This is a genetic defect, a rare illness. The drugs only buy me time, it's no panacea. Let's not go through all that trouble. Let me come home and spend time with my grandson. Life will be happier, and it will be easier on you too. Mom, don't worry. I've signed a long-term contract with the company, I'll have the money, Yang Qingxua said. Just focus on your treatment and don't worry about anything else. I'll visit you around 8 a.m. tomorrow. Sure. Mrs. Yang's heart ached for her son. In just slightly more than a year, he had been disabled, lost a good job, divorced, and became burdened with debt. Now, he was a single parent and even had to take care of her. Mrs. Yang believed that she was better off dead, but she knew her son's character very well. If she wanted to be euthanized, it would probably torment her son for the rest of his life. Mom, I need to get back to my cooking. Tao Tao is waiting to have his meal, Yang Qingxua said. All right. Mrs. Yang hung up. Yang Qingxua covered the lid and silently watched the flames rise from the stove. How did my life turn out this way? Yang Qingxua thought. He was once an elite. If I had listened to Brother Su and Coach back then, focusing on martial arts and not falling in love and getting married so early, I would have definitely been able to go further in the World Martial Arts Tournament and earn more. I wouldn't be in such a predicament now. He recalled the past. He fell in love in his freshman year, it was his first love. After he joined the national team, he connected with his ex-wife over the metaverse and constantly interacted with her. When he was 22 years old, having just reached the legal age for marriage, he got married and had a child. Although he put a lot of effort into martial arts, he had to admit that being in love, getting married, and having a child had diverted a lot of his energy, reducing what he could have achieved. He was a year younger than Su Jingming. With age normalized, he was completely comparable to the latter. I'm not as focused as Brother Su. I didn't suffer a serious injury during my time on the national team. Brother Su broke his leg, yet he managed to get back on his feet after a few years and entered the World Martial Arts Tournament's top 8. His spearmanship is even acknowledged by the martial arts circle globally. He is known as one of the top 10 spearmen in history and has earned the title of Spear Demon. I'm also a spearman. Yang Qingxua said softly. I was content with my situation and wanted to spend more time with my wife and son. I didn't sacrifice as much as Brother Su did. There are no second chances, so it's useless to feel regretful. I'll take it one step at a time. Yang Qingxua lowered his head and touched his watch, producing a projection. He then tapped it and started making payments. Water, electricity, gas, virtual internet fees, milk money for his son, monthly loans that had to be returned. He couldn't see any hope in his career. He was debt-ridden, and he was sandwiched between his son and mother. He could only rely on himself, he was the backbone of this family. Yang Qingxua looked up and saw the thin figure of his virtual glasses-wearing son, Ong Tao, sitting on the sofa in the living room. Tao Tao, Daddy can't give you much. But even if I have to give up my life, I will let you grow up happily and give you the ability to be self-reliant in society. The aroma of the stewed meat gradually wafted into the living room. Dad, it smells lovely, shouted Yang Tao happily as he sniffed the air. I cooked your favorite pork ribs. It'll be done in a jiffy, Yang Qingxua said with a smile. Su Jingming sat on the high-speed rail back to Binhai City and looked out the window. How did this happen? Su Jingming knew Shua's current predicament. His heart ached for the latter, but he felt powerless. He's disabled, and his career is ruined. His entire family still needs to rely on him. All I can do is help, but Shua has to fend for himself, Su Jingming said softly. Best of luck, Shua. When life gave you lemons, one could only suck them up. Chapter 8. Returning home. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Several days later, the Jiangnan provincial team left. Su Jingming also left Cosmo Center and prepared to return to his hometown. In the afternoon, at the high-speed railway station in Binhai City. You'll be alone in Binhai City, so take care of yourself. Su Jingming and Li Miaomiao hugged each other goodbye. The latter wore a mask and had a female assistant beside her. Although Su Jingming had made it into the World Martial Arts Tournament twice, placing in the top 16 once and top 8 once, he didn't often show his face publicly. Very few people recognized him on the streets, but Li Miaomiao was different, she was very popular. Even though she only broadcasted once a month, she still had millions of fans. If she didn't wear a mask, she would probably be quickly recognized. I reckon I'll be done with all the arrangements in 2 or 3 days. I'll be able to return when that happens. Sister Kong has already gone to Mingyue City and has gotten a rental, Li Miaomiao said. Sister Kong was one of Li Miaomiao's 2 assistants. Xiaozhen, you have to take care of your boss for the next few days, Su Jingming said to the thin female assistant, Xiaozhen. Yes, sir, Xiaozhen immediately puffed up her chest and replied. Su Jingming smiled and nodded, then hugged his girlfriend. Text me when you're home, Li Miaomiao exhorted. All right, I'm leaving. Su Jingming turned around, carried his backpack, and passed the checkpoint, heading for the high-speed rail platform. Li Miaomiao led her female assistant as she watched Su Jingming's back disappear into the tunnel before leaving. On the high-speed rail, Su Jingming sat down as a 3-foot-long projection stood suspended in front of him. The projection could only be seen from Su Jingming's angle, it appeared distorted from other angles due to insufficient light. Brothers and sisters, friends and family, from today onward, I will be settling down in Mingyue City. I invite you to Mingyue City for a holiday, and I'll be your host the entire time. Su Jingming posted a message on his social media and quickly received replies. Junior brother, bon voyage. This message was from Fang Xinglong, the boss of Cosmo Center. Old Su, you left Binhai. This was his former national teammate and good friend, Heng Fang. Senior brother, you're finally back in Mingyue City. We've been longing for you. It was Mingyue City's 8 Extremities sect's junior brother, Zhu Tong. You're back. Let's meet up soon. This was the sect master of Mingyue City's Poking Foot sect, Dai Tongda. He was also one of Su Jingming's 2 masters in his youth. When he was young, Su Jingming's initiating master was his father. Then, under his father's guidance, he became Dai Tongda's disciple. I heard that Mingyue City is a very beautiful city. I'll definitely go on a trip when I get the chance. This was a world-class martial arts expert, Hunter Mickey. Mickey had studied in China and was proficient in Mandarin. The great expert is returning to his hometown. You have to treat us to a meal, many old classmates want to meet you. It was Wu Wei, a high school classmate. Messages appeared one after another as time passed. There were his old classmates, his relatives, his provincial teammates, his national teammates, and some experts and friends from the World Martial Arts Tournament that he got to know through friendly competition. There were also some martial arts managers, coaches, and disciples that he had taught. Su Jingming smiled when he saw these messages and replied to his friends one by one. In an Oriental-styled villa in Beijing. Lu Hai, who was eating his 3rd meal that day, was also on his social media. Every year, when he was in seclusion, he took a look at his social media during meals to keep abreast of the world outside. Jingming left Binhai and has returned to Mingyue City. Lu Hai understood why. He was forced to do so by the Tiger Shark Group's Qingziheo. The national patronage name list. Lu Hai gently tapped on the screen and looked at the names on the list. He then shook his head helplessly. I talked to several old friends and turned hoarse from persuading them, but Jingming was still rejected. There are 20 people on the list, 12 are master martial artists, and 5 are from the other martial arts schools. Only 3 spots are up for grabs. In the end, these 3 spots were obtained by 2 professional martial artists and a professional boxing champion. The professional boxing champion is a Grand Slammer. Of the 2 professional gladiators, one of them placed 4th at the World Martial Arts Tournament. The other entered the world's top 8 3 times, and his results were better than Jingming's. The name list was too special this time. Lu Hai only had the right to recommend, and he had already tried his best. The scenery outside the window zoomed by. Su Jingming looked up and stared out the window. After chatting for a while on his social media, he had already crossed the border into Mingyue City. It only took 35 minutes for the high-speed rail to reach Mingyue City from Binhai City. I'm home. Su Jingming was in a good mood. He looked out the high-speed rail's window and saw countless weeping willows beside the river. The scenery of Jiangnan made him feel relaxed and happy. Although Mingyue City couldn't compare economically with Binhai City, an economic center in China, it was much better in regards to the quality of life. The entire city seemed to be a city built in a park. The pace of life was slow in the city, and many elderly people in the country moved here for retirement. Mingyue City, I'm back. Su Jingming got out of the high-speed rail station and took a smart car to his parents' residence. It was a villa district with some history. He had practically lived here all his life before he turned 18. In the villa district, Su Jingming walked in the alley. The stone bricks on the ground had signs of age, some were old, while some had probably been replaced by property management due to damage. Su Jingming couldn't help but touch a wall that was covered in indistinct graffiti. He drew this graffiti on his neighbor's wall at the age of 5. Despite all this time, the marks still vaguely remained. As he walked down the alley, he recalled his childhood days when he carried his school bag to school while his father picked him up. Back then, the robots weren't that intelligent. His mother was in charge of cooking, and his father was in charge of picking him up. In the blink of an eye, 20 years have passed. Su Jingming walked to the familiar courtyard door and pushed it gently. The door wasn't locked, having been opened in advance. Su Jingming walked to the front yard, which was a small courtyard of more than 30 square meters. He used to spend a lot of time practicing martial arts here when he was young. "Dad, Mom," Su Jingming greeted. "Jingming, you're back." "Jingming is back." Voices came from inside the house. Su Jingming pushed open the living room door and saw that his parents had already gotten up. Mrs. Su wore pajamas and slippers, while Mr. Su wore a short-sleeved shirt and a pair of berms. It was summer after all, so he dressed very casually at home. "Jingming." Mrs. Su hugged her son happily. "I missed you so much. Where's Meow Meow? Did you come back alone?" "Meow Meow will be back in 2 days," Su Jingming said with a smile. Mr. Su walked out and looked at Su Jingming before asking, "Where's your weapon?" "It's being delivered. There are many things, and they're all heavy objects, so they won't arrive until tomorrow. They'll all be delivered to the new house," Su Jingming said. Mr. Su nodded. Mr. Su's name was Su Hong, and he was about the same height as Su Jingming. He was much more muscular. After all, he was an impressive person who founded the 8 Extremities sect in Mingyue City. He focused on the 8 extremities and practiced basic stances daily. The 8 Extremities sect stances involved using one's arms, chest, shoulders, back, elbows, and other parts to hit a tree stump. These were also considered part of the stances. There was also the single-armed handstand for training the arms. It was difficult, so the simplified version was to do a 2-arm handstand. A more simplified version was the push-up stance. There was also the stance meant to train the legs. All kinds of martial arts from the 8 Extremities sect allowed one to exert force in every part of one's body, making them as fierce as a bear or a tiger. Mr. Su had a stocky build. He gave off a domineering aura. "Dad, you need to lose weight," Su Jingming said. "You're over 100 kilograms now, right?" 105 kilograms, Mr. Su shook his head and said. "There's nothing I can do about it. I'm old, and my back acts up often. I also have to exercise more slowly. I only practice for 2 hours a day, so my weight unsurprisingly goes up. In the past, I always maintained my weight at 95 kilograms. I told you to eat less since you aren't practicing as much, but you still insist on eating. How can you not get fat?" Mrs. Su's figure was enough to make many young girls envious. It was just that the wrinkles on her face and the white hair on her head revealed her age. Mrs. Su was a painter. When she was young, she traveled the world with Mr. Su and later settled in Mingyue City. "I'm used to eating that much, I can't help it," Mr. Su smiled. "You were too competitive when you were young, you visited those combat schools all over the world and often sparred with them." Mrs. Su shook her head. "You ended up covered in injuries. You might be able to deal with them when you are young, but you must be feeling it at your age. You ache all over every now and then. Jingming, take this as a lesson. You need to stay healthy and reduce your combat participation. Yeah, martial arts and weapon combat are very dangerous." Mr. Su nodded. When their son had his leg broken by his opponent in the World Martial Arts Tournament's arena at the age of 20, the couple panicked. Dad, Mom, don't worry. I've already returned to settle down in Mingyue City. Who's there to fight with? Su Jingming smiled. Is Jingming back? A voice came from upstairs. Grandpa. Su Jingming was overjoyed. Your grandfather knew you were coming back today, so he came over early in the morning. He got sleepy in the afternoon and took a nap upstairs, Mrs. Su said. He probably heard our conversation. Su Jingming put down his backpack and walked to the courtyard of the villa. He saw a white-haired old man walking down, and his gait was quite firm and stable. Grandpa. Su Jingming immediately walked to the stairs. It's good to see you back. Isn't Mingyue City prettier and more comfortable than Binhai City? The white-haired old man smiled until his eyes narrowed, naturally very happy to see his eldest grandson. I'll be back permanently. I'll spend more time with you, Grandpa. Su Jingming's heart ached for his grandfather. His grandfather's name was Su Guishun, and he came from a rural family. He was a professional sports player when he was young, and his game nickname was Master Nameless. Mobile gaming was all the rage back then. His grandfather had even received a finals MVP title once, and his income throughout his career was quite high. Later on, he became a gaming broadcaster after retirement and had saved up quite a bit of money over the years. This became the bedrock of the Su family. However, his grandfather was already 88 years old, and his health was deteriorating. Come, have some fruit. Father Su and Mother Su brought 2 large fruit platters. The grapes, bananas, and watermelons had all been prepared. Have some fruit. Grandpa Su was in a good mood. He sat down and handed a watermelon to Su Jingming. Try the watermelons from your hometown. These are all grown locally. Grandpa, I'll help myself. Su Jingming also sat down and picked up the watermelon. He still remembered that his grandfather often brought him out to play when he was young. His mother was very young at that time, and his father was in his prime. He often practiced martial arts with a group of disciples. Now, his grandfather was old and covered in wrinkles. His face was covered in age spots. His mother had quite a bit of white hair, and her wrinkles could no longer be hidden. Although his father was stocky, he was still 60 years old. He also showed signs of aging. This is how life is, nobody can stop someone from getting old and dying, Su Jingming thought. I've grown up, but my parents are old. My grandfather's days are also limited. When Su Jingming returned home, he felt the warmth of his family. However, he also felt the ruthlessness of time. Your father just bought these fruits this morning. They're the freshest, Mrs. Su said. They are delicious. Su Jingming smiled happily as he ate. Chapter 9. Global Live Broadcast. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A few days after his return to Mingyue City, Li Miao Miao also returned from Binhai City. All her daily necessities had been moved to their new place. It was a detached villa in the suburbs of Mingyue City. Although the location couldn't compare to his parents' old house, it was much larger. The basement of the villa was 200 square meters, and Su Jingming converted it into a professional training room. The villa yard was 800 square meters, and some of the areas were made into an open-air martial arts arena. For example, a huge, 40 cm thick, 3 meter long wooden stake was erected in the yard, a meter underground and 2 meters above ground. Su Jingming wore a singlet and a pair of berms, and his feet were bare. He took a step forward and slapped his palms on the large wooden stake. When he stepped forward, his speed increased sharply, raising his entire body's speed immediately. He was like a tiger that had suddenly flared up, and his palms slammed into the large wooden log. Bang! The 40 cm thick wooden stake trembled violently from the impact. After taking a step back, Su Jingming took another step forward. With one step, he unleashed his strength and struck the wooden log with both palms again. After 10 strikes, he switched moves, slamming it with his shoulder, back, elbow, etc. Every collision caused the wooden stake to tremble violently. Jingming, let's have dinner at my parents' tonight. Li Miao Miao wore a pair of virtual glasses and walked to the living room door. She leaned against the door and looked at Su Jingming, who was training in the yard. Sure, Su Jingming replied. But when do you plan on moving over? Why? Can't stand being alone at night. Li Miao Miao glanced at Su Jingming with a faint smile and teased. It's quite lonely with just me here. Su Jingming stopped practicing and looked at Li Miao Miao. Ah, look at how pitiful you are. Li Miao Miao smiled and said, it's only been a few days since I returned to Minghua City. I want to spend more time with my parents, Li Miao Miao said. She couldn't stay by her parents' side 24 hours a day either, it would be excruciating. Young people also needed personal space. She spent the day at their new house and slept at her parents' place overnight to chat with her mother. My parents will be sick of me in a few days, Li Miao Miao said. I'll move here when that happens. Okay. Su Jingming nodded. Oh right, I'm accompanying Grandpa to the hospital tomorrow. I probably won't be here during the day. Then, I won't be coming over tomorrow. Li Miao Miao walked back to the living room and immersed herself in the metaverse. Su Jingming also continued his practice. Suddenly, Li Miao Miao, who was sitting on the sofa in the living room, revealed a look of surprise. She carefully read the news posted in the metaverse. Jingming. Jingming, something big has happened. Li Miao Miao exclaimed in the living room. Bang! Su Jingming, who had smashed the wooden stake with both fists, was shocked by his girlfriend's scream. He stopped and asked, what's wrong? Then, he walked into the living room. Look! Li Miao Miao stood in the living room and waved her hand. In the living room, a projection appeared in midair with a playing video. All 195 countries of the world will be simultaneously making an announcement at a press conference that will be held 3 days later, July 21, 9 p.m. Beijing time. All 195 countries around the world will broadcast the press conference simultaneously. 9 p.m. Beijing time, 8 a.m. New York time, 1 p.m. London time, 10 p.m. Japan time. The entire world isn't in the same time zone, but everyone is simultaneously holding a press conference. It has to be a big deal, a very big deal. The last time something this big happened was when the 195 countries in the world formed the Earth Alliance. No information has been leaked about this press conference. The more confidential it is, the more important it is. Short video clips slid across the screen one after another. The entire internet was in a frenzy because of this sudden piece of news. Countless netizens shared their views. It's definitely something major. Su Jingming said seriously. It's very likely to be a major event that will affect the fate of all humans in the world. There are so many countries worldwide. Li Miao Miao nodded as well. To have all 195 countries make the announcement simultaneously is to show how important this is. The last time something this serious happened was the establishment of the Earth Alliance and the Mars Project. When humans first landed on Mars, countries frantically developed all kinds of space technology and rushed to establish a base on Mars. In the end, all 195 countries established the Earth Alliance and jointly developed Mars. Su Jingming nodded. Establishing the Earth Alliance to develop Mars was the biggest thing in the past few decades. I wonder what it will be this time. There are many discussions on the internet, but no information has been leaked. It's in a state of complete secrecy. Li Miao Miao also paid attention to the news. The level of confidentiality is very high. Su Jingming looked forward to it. Let's watch the live broadcast in 3 days. The entire world was stirred by this press conference. Most of the talk on the internet was about the upcoming press conference since such a major development only happened once in the past century, the establishment of the Earth Alliance. What would it be this time? Time passed day by day until it was July 21st. At 8:55 p.m., Beijing, China. The live broadcast is going to begin soon. I wonder what's so important. In Su Jingming's new house, Grandpa Su Jingming's parents, Li Miaomiao's parents, Su Jingming, and Li Miaomiao were gathered in the living room. The projection was already on the global live stream page. Beijing, at Lu Hai's residence. Dad, do you know what this global live broadcast is about? A large number of family members had gathered at Lu Hai's residence. They were also waiting for the global live broadcast to air. I'm not sure either. The level of confidentiality is very high. Lu Hai sat there and said, "Don't worry. It will be officially announced in a few minutes. We'll know once it's announced." Although Lu Hai didn't know, he had heard it from the top. The national patronage list is related to the Global Live Stream conference on July 21st. What's going on with the Global Live broadcast? The Qing family was also gathered. They consisted of the family head, Qing Liwei, his wife, the family of Qing Zitao, their eldest son, and their second son, Qing Zihao. Dad, you don't know what this press conference is about even with your network. Qing Zihao ate a banana on the sofa with his legs crossed. His father, Qing Liwei, helmed the Tiger Shark Group, a megacorporation with a market capitalization of $5 trillion. His influence could very well be greater than the heads of some small countries. It was obvious that a secret that even he didn't know had extremely high confidentiality. I don't know, Qing Liwei said seriously. I've asked around. It said that all 195 countries will do a joint release, but in fact, most heads of state don't know what it is about. Only the 32 members of the alliance know the secret. The Earth Alliance's 5 council members decided on most matters. Even if it was a major matter that decided the fate of the world, just 32 member countries could make the decision. As for the smaller countries, they only had representation in the alliance with no say in any matters. They only had the right to follow the alliance's decisions. If it affects the fate of humans worldwide, it will also affect the fate of our Tiger Shark Group, Qing Liwei said. Pay attention to the press conference. Qing Zitong and Qing Zihao also watched attentively. The Tiger Shark Group benefited from the increased exchanges between countries back when the Earth Alliance was established. It allowed them to establish branch offices all across the globe. A powerful corporation needed to keep its finger on the pulse of the world and follow it. At this moment, in China, EU, the United States of America, India, Japan, and many other countries around the world, be it day or night, wealthy or poor, more than half the world's population was tuned into this live broadcast. All entertainment on the internet had been halted. All the live streaming platforms, video platforms, and all the official media outlets only had one program no matter how one switched channels. This global live streamed press conference. Even the big screens and billboards on the streets were broadcasting this press conference. It was very difficult for people living on this planet not to know about this live broadcast. It's about to begin. Su Jingming, Li Miaomiao, and the rest of the family sat in the living room and watched the live stream. The live broadcast showed all 195 national representatives seated. Sitting at the head of the table was Angus, the current Secretary General of the Earth Alliance. I'm very honored today to be able to host this press conference because it will be one that will enter the annals of human history, Secretary General Angus said with a smile. He spoke in English, but every media in China broadcasted in Mandarin. For Japan, it was Japanese. Every country heard their lingua franca. Chapter 10. Living in a Good Era. You are listening at novelfull.audio. More than 40 years ago, which was the year 2036, humans first landed on Mars, Angus said. Moreover, they made astonishing discoveries on Mars. These were all kept secret previously, and I'm pleased to disclose some of these findings to the global public today. Secretary General Angus stood up. The giant projection behind him displayed a scene on Mars, a huge, dilapidated iron city. This is the ruins of an underground city on Mars. We estimate it to be 36 kilometers long and 25 kilometers wide based on the remnants. You can think of it as a giant underground fortress, Secretary General Angus said. He then waved his hand, and the scene changed to a human sculpture. This sculpture was created 30 million years ago, and it resembles us humans, Secretary General Angus said. It was also discovered on Mars. Secretary General Angus didn't explain much at all. With another wave of his hand, an even more shocking scene appeared, a huge, brand-new spaceship deep in a canyon that had been split in half. This spaceship is 5.8 kilometers long. It probably crashed a million years ago, Secretary General Angus said. When we discovered it, this damaged spaceship was buried in the canyon. After it was excavated from the ruins, we did some simple repairs, only to find that this spaceship remained brand new with no signs of decay. The technology contained in this spaceship is unimaginable. Secretary General Angus temporarily paused after saying that, but the entire world was boiling over at this moment. What is this? Such a huge city of steel. Is that a spaceship? It's 5.8 kilometers long. The materials remain new after a million years. What kind of technology is this? What kind of technology is inside this spaceship? That sculpture is from 30 million years ago, but it still maintains its overall appearance. That must be some impressive material. Furthermore, it's in the likeness of humans. Humans existed on Mars in the past. Everyone around the world was in shock as they discussed. Secretary General Angus fell silent for a moment, and he flipped through the manuscript in his hand. Then, he looked up and said, Mars is the collective wealth of our entire human race. Therefore, in 2056, we established the Earth Alliance and jointly developed Mars. Humans landed on Mars in 2036. In 2056, the Global Earth Alliance was established. The entire world worked together to develop Mars, and the technology obtained from Mars will also benefit the entire human race. Angus smiled. For example, the virtual glasses technology originated from the VR headsets on Mars. Angus produced a silver-gray helmet from a nearby chest. The virtualization of virtual glasses technology is only at 30%, but the VR headsets technology. Angus said, after paying an extremely high price, we have finally made a breakthrough. By donning the virtual headset, one's cerebral nerves will be connected to the VR headset. The cerebral consciousness will enter a virtual world, Angus said. First, the virtualization is nearly 100%, you can even simulate touch and smell. A person's body can be 100% virtualized. Everyone who was watching the live broadcast was stunned. Nearly 100% virtualization. Second, because our bodies are completely in a state of rest after entering the virtual world, our brains feel like they are in a dream. Therefore, people can use their sleeping time to enter the virtual world. This allows us to boost the amount of usable time in a day. Other than studying and working during the day, we can also study, do scientific research, and be entertained in the virtual world at night. Secretary General Angus smiled. Technology will change humanity. We can also make use of our sleep time in the future. This is what it means for technology to change humanity. We can enter the virtual world during bedtime. Su Jingming, Li Miao Miao, and the others were all shocked. When I was young, it was still the era of mobile gaming. It's only been 60 to 70 years, and the virtual world is now reality. I managed to see this day happen at the age of 88. Grandpa Su was dumbfounded. The VR headset is not the biggest harvest from our development of Mars, Angus said. At today's press conference, the VR headsets are only ranked second. Ranked first is human evolution. Evolution. Everyone around the world listened attentively. The VR headset is only ranked second. Human evolution is ranked first. We've unearthed some ancient technology from Mars, one of which is genetic evolution, Angus said. After years of experimentation, people around the world need to express our gratitude to volunteers who gave their lives for the experiments. They are the heroes of the entire human race. Images of men and women appeared on the screen behind him. Everyone around the world fell silent. Did many volunteers die for the experiments? After years of experimentation, we have figured out a method for genetic evolution with a 100% rate of success, Angus said. It's suitable for all humans on Earth. Genetic evolution, it sounds incredible, but the theory is simple. Take a boxer for instance, his fists and bones will far exceed those of ordinary people after prolonged training. His child will also have stronger fists and bones, a virtue of his genetic heritage. This is a tiny step in the evolution of genes. People have long discovered that exercise strengthens one's body. Exercise reduces many illnesses and allows one to live longer, but those are simple training methods that we summarize from our daily habits. Secretary General Angus said, if science and technology can develop to the point where we can monitor the genes of humans, we can summarize the changes in the genes as a result of human training. We can monitor the changes in the genes of millions of humans or even hundreds of millions of humans. The final production of a training method will be incredible. This is a gene evolution method found on Mars. After our experiments, we determined 10 evolution methods that are suitable for humans on Earth. 10 books appeared on the screen behind him, each with alien text. I'd like you to turn your attention to the batch of volunteers we invited 6 months ago. Secretary General Angus pointed at the projection. Over 1,000 people appeared on the giant projection behind him. There were men and women, some were young and old, some were disabled, some were sick, some were healthy, and some were so old that they were about to die. They were all wearing silver-gray helmets, and they were lying on beds. More than half of them have terminal illnesses, and 20% of them are disabled, Secretary General Angus said. Learning the evolutionary method isn't easy, it will tire the body out every time. If the movements are wrong, it will bring about even more harm. Therefore, these volunteers studied with the VR headsets. After they are certain that they have learned it completely in the virtual world, they will also find themselves having learned it in reality. In just 3 months, this batch of volunteers underwent a transformation, Secretary General Angus said excitedly. Disabled people appeared one after another. Some had missing legs, while others had missing arms. But in the video, their stumps gradually grew until they were fully grown. Many white-haired elderly had their hair turned black with time. Their wrinkles disappeared, and they became young. The terminally ill patients gradually became healthy and even had a rosy glow. Their genes have evolved, bringing them to brand-new levels, Secretary General Angus said. This is a 100-meter sprint test. The 100-meter world record is 9.32 seconds. As for these 8 volunteers, Secretary General Angus looked at the screen. With a gunshot, the 8 volunteers flew out like cheetahs, their figures blurring as they quickly arrived at the finishing line. The fastest volunteer had a result of 5.13 seconds. The 8 of them studied the genetic evolutionary methods for 3 months and were already capable of running 100 meters in about 5 seconds, Secretary General Angus said. The screen next showed a young man grabbing a barbell. The barbell was thicker than Olympic barbells, but the heavy weights on both sides made the thick barbell bend. The young man easily lifted it above his head the moment he exerted his strength. He didn't go through any professional weight-lifting training. An ordinary young man easily lifted a 1,000-kilogram barbell. On the screen, someone leaped over a horizontal pole placed up high. A single leap reaching 3.9 meters. Secretary General Angus said, they can jump higher, run faster, and lift heavier weights. Their bodies recover faster, and lost limbs can be regenerated. Terminal illnesses of the past will be nothing but a small cold to evolved humans. the body's immunity will naturally eliminate them. All known terminal illnesses can be eliminated after evolution. Most importantly, their lifespans have also changed. Through repeated confirmation, evolved humans will generally have a lifespan ranging between 160 and 200 years. Human life expectancy has doubled. The moment that was said, many people around the world broke into a frenzy. All terminal illnesses can be cured. Limb regeneration. In the living room in Jinmen City, Yang Qingxua dazedly watched all of this while hugging his son. Mom's illness can be treated. My hand can regrow. Yang Qingxua murmured. Beep. 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 A small screen appeared beside him. Sure. Sure, did you hear that? Limbs can be regrown. The video showed someone with both legs missing growing them back. It's only one hand for you, you can grow it back. Mrs. Yang was so excited that tears streamed down her face. She didn't mind dying to know that her son was no longer disabled. Mom, you can recover from your illness too. Yang Qingxua also cried with joy. Yes, my illness can be cured. Mrs. Yang nodded immediately. Our family can be together again. We have to thank this era. What a wonderful era we live in. Yang Qingxua looked down at his son, who had dozed off. He had already fallen asleep while waiting for the live broadcast. Yang Qingxua kissed his son excitedly. His son opened his eyes and looked at his father with drowsy eyes. In a daze, he closed his eyes and fell asleep again. Has Tao Tao slept? Mrs. Yang asked. All entertainment was suspended, and there were no cartoons. Tao Tao got sleepy waiting, Yang Qingxua said with a smile. Mrs. Yang nodded. Let him get some sleep. Things will turn for the better for our family moving forward. It's going to get better. Yang Qingxua smiled. He felt that his future was filled with hope. Su Jingming and his family were equally excited. All terminal illnesses can be cured. Lost limbs can be grown again. A life expectancy of 160 to 200 years. This news left the entire family dumbfounded. Su Jingming looked at his aged parents. His father was already 60, his mother had some white hair, and his grandfather was 88. Were the most important relatives in his life now able to live beyond 160? Jingming, your leg will definitely recover. His mother hugged Su Jingming excitedly. Their lost legs could grow back, so that injury of yours is nothing. Su Jingming nodded. But the martial arts tournament in the future will definitely be different from the past. In the future, an ordinary person will be able to lift more than 1,000 kilograms with both hands. This is a new era. Grandpa Su sighed. When I was young, my family used computers. My father and his peers played computer games. When I was young, we entered the age of cell phones. When I was middle-aged and later in my older years, we ushered in the age of virtual glasses. Now, human lifespans can be doubled. I'm living in a good era. Yeah, we're living in a good era. Li Qianen and his wife looked at each other. Dad, Mom, we can be together and live to the age of 160. Li Miao Miao also hugged her parents happily. Our family will be together. Li Qianen and his wife smiled with tears in their eyes.